Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Gaming the System, the Feminist gaming podcast. Today, we're doing a bonus round, which is me, myself, and Alex. And
Hello.
we are celebrating, once again, even more awesomeness from Sony Santa Monica Studios and their latest update regarding God of War Ragnarok, which is particularly awesome because it's not just the awesome gameplay, the awesome graphics, the story, the acting, all the things that we already know and love it for. They are also paving the way with a massive slew of accessibility features and improvements. I didn't realize that the 19th of May is actually Accessibility Awareness Day. So all of this is swirling around at the same time. So Alex and I thought we'd come on and have a chat about it. So start off with why we believe that accessibility is a feminist issue. Alex, what do you think about that?
Well, first off, I'm going to apologise to any listeners or watchers if I sound more quiet than usual, because I do have a bit of a sore throat today, but we'll see how it goes. But to answer your question, Matt, I think accessibility is a feminist issue because so often in society, there are barriers to access and fair and open access to everybody. And there are all sorts of intersections between we talk about ourselves as intersectional feminists because we have different aspects of our personalities that kind of mesh together and define us. And all these interactions meld together to create different barriers depending on who we are. So, for example, I might face more barriers as a disabled woman than you would as a disabled man if you class yourself as disabled. I don't know if you do. But yes, we talked about that previously on the pod. But I think, there's all sorts of different connotations depending on, there's even a hierarchy within disability as well, within the world of disability, if you will, where I think just because society is so quote unquote tribalized, you get these sort of different levels of what's normalized and what's acceptable within society, and where you get that, it's like the people that are accepted and normalized, they're the ones that are always catered for, whereas the ones outside of that, they're not very often thought about from the design stage of things, which is often where accessibility is the most important. And when you don't have a diverse range of people in the design stage of things, then you're not going to get an accessible product at the end of it. I kind of rambled a little bit, but I hope
that was all of that was really, really interesting. Particularly the hierarchical nature of disabilities, because one thing I thought of while I was looking through the list of things is the idea that there's the concept that some people are more disabled than others, which is exactly that hierarchical system. Because you could go through, they said that there's at least 60 accessibility options in so many different ways. And it struck me as thinking there might be one person who only needs to use one of these accessibility features. There might be someone who needs to use 10 of them. And that would make that one person is more difficult to make the place accessible for. And I've been talking a lot about union organizing because that's what I've been learning so much about recently. And they say that the advocacy models of union organizing, there's the ones that don't work are the ones where it's a room full of professional people coming up with things to work for everyone else,
Mm.
because they're only going to know from their select group of experiences. The way you get actual serious change is everyone comes to the table. Every new person you bring in comes to the table, and they get to have a say, and then that builds the thing that works for everyone. Because what is accessibility in the simplest terms? It's making sure that anyone can access something. And talking about our disabilities, my disabilities are depression, anxiety, and chronic pain, and those prevent me from doing, say, working a normal 9 to 5 job. And you, Alex, as you've been showing this week, working 8 hours a day, isn't it like 6 days of this week, and this is your one day off?
Yeah. No, my working hours do vary, but I get nice chunks of time off. But there are times where it's all scrunched together because of the way the rota is. And my June is incredibly busy, but I'm sure we'll talk about that at a later date as well. It's all full of nice things, but just very busy. But yeah, sorry, I've lost the thread of what we were talking about. Oh, conditions in general, yes. And as many listeners may or may not know, I have cerebral palsy, which generally tends to affect my dexterity when playing, and also I do get fatigue and occasional pains and aches and pains and things. And yeah, so that's really how it impacts on my gaming, but also generally, like, compared to someone without cerebral palsy, I'm probably not capable of working full-time hours. So like 35 plus to 40 hours. I think my limit is probably about 30. Hence why I have the working pattern that I do. But it definitely, compared to even within, because cerebral palsy is such a varied disability as well. It's different for everybody who has it. You could have someone who's even more mild than I am, or you could have someone with very severe CP who, needs round the clock care because of the various ways that it affects the body. It's basically I think the word is a neurological condition, so it affects the messages from the brain to the muscles in the body and various things. So, or at least that's what I was told when I was younger. But of course, when you're young, you don't understand half of the stuff that doctors say to you. That's so interesting, though, when I think about the transition from childhood to adulthood, and how the care of you is so focused in on making sure you can do the most walking when you're a child, and then you're kind of left at 18 to be like, oh, you can get on with it now, you're an adult. But then they don't think about how my condition might change or evolve as I get older, which it is. It's slightly deteriorating, I would say, as I now reach the decade of my 30s. And there's not much research into adults with CP. The focus is very much on children. This is going off on a massive tangent, though, but one of my colleagues at work said something very interesting to me the other day. They've actually spoken to doctors who he's had to correct and say, because they were asking about CP and saying, oh, well, I thought it was only a childhood condition. And that's coming from a GP, So you do wonder, like, how much people actually know, how much society knows about different disabilities and health conditions. And I think there's a real lack of awareness from the general public, unless you know somebody who has various conditions or have a relative or have them yourself, then it's not really something that's spoken about or talked about enough, really. I don't know how you feel, Matt.
It's interesting what you said about that GP, because that reflects perfectly what I was saying about building policies from everyone.
Yeah.
If you had a room full of those 10 GPs saying how we should make workplaces more accessible to people with CP, they might just go, well, children don't work, so we won't need to bother.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is why you need people with lived experience in the room.
Yeah, we'll move on to assumptions that people make about disabilities in a moment. But moving to the inspiration for this topic, the God of War announcement. Was there, and what was like the biggest thing that leapt out to you when you had a look at it?
I think just because it was so colourful, the colour contrast section was really cool. Because I thought of some friends I know who have visual impairments, and this would really definitely improve their gaming experience, which is really cool to see. It is, it's not, just because it's not how we would imagine playing a game doesn't mean that it's not a valid way to play, obviously. And to whoever needs it, it's going to really open up this game and make it an actual playable experience for them that they can have ownership of and have agency with, because they can actually take part and play it, which I think is a really cool thing. Definitely. But obviously there's loads more to talk about, but out of all of the ones I had a brief read through, that one was definitely something that stood out, and I was like, I've not played The Last of Us 2, so I don't know if they had the same settings on that, but it's definitely the first time I've seen such a well-defined colour contrast, rather than it being like a cheat mode fun time if you finish the game kind of thing. Well, Matt, you've come prepared with pictures. Well done. Thank you. No, there is. That's cool. Yeah, that's interesting. It's a little bit more blurry. It's kind of like Eagle Vision in Assassin's Creed in this screenshot here from The Last of Us Part 2. Whereas in the ones from God of War, they're very much, very detailed, or at least more detailed. You can see the textures and the expressions on the faces as well, which is interesting. Whether people with visual impairments would be able to pick that out, obviously it depends on the particular types of impairments they have, but to see that level of detail is cool.
I imagine. Well, part of it is just the preternatural superiority of Sony Santa Monica and Insomniac. They just you can't expect everyone to be as extraordinary as Sony Santa Monica. Also, maybe fair dues that the God of War 1 is a cinematic.
Yes, that's
the other
true.
one's a gameplay.
But then also technically, isn't God of War just a constant gameplay, even because they've done they did it all in one shot, didn't they? I don't know if they've done the same for this one. I assume so, but yeah, I know what you mean though, because there are parts where it's a bit more like you do lose control of Kratos very occasionally, which I would define as a cinematic. Yeah.
It's just basically one. That's one of the things that makes it so epic is the one-shot camera.
Yeah.
Because
so cool.
that you see that reflected in other games, like the Metal Gear Solid games, and one of the irritating things about The Last of Us Part 2 is every time like it wants you to, so it's basically area after area, and you go through a door or a passageway or shimmy through a gap, and the way that they introduce every cutscene is you squeeze through a gap and then someone runs and tackles you.
Yeah, because they had to have time to load the cutscene. I only just recently learned that's what the those types of spaces are for, where you're shifting through. It's to give the game time to load the next space. I don't know if that's still true. I guess so. But yeah, it's interesting when you look into like how games are actually put together and what things mean, because you don't always take it in when you're playing. To me, the crawling through spaces always got very repetitive, but I understand why now, because that's what it's for.
That's why the world tree is a pretty smoke screen.
Yes.
while
Yes,
it frantically loads.
the whole
Frantically
new.
knows the next bit.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm very, very gradually learning, because I'm determined to make my own games at some point.
Ooh.
Gradually learning why things, and the things like God of War and Last of Us Part 2, I look at and go, how is this possible? It can't be possible. I need to start something smaller. I like you. The most awesome thing, the first thing I saw was that red and blue image, and that instantly made me go, "That's so cool! That's so cool!" And without the input of people with visual impairments, we would never get to see that side of things. The last question I'll ask today is how these things actually enhance gameplay for everyone. What was another one that was really good? I really enjoy the attention to detail on finding things in the environment, because someone with who doesn't have any visual impairments, it might seem really simple to go, oh, there's a bottle over there that I can pick up and throw. There's a door over there that I can go through or can't go through. And the option to change the size of those markings, to change the color of those markings so they're highlighted, to have audio cues. And one of the incredibly awesome things is the controller. Now you can have a little wiggle on the right hand side, and that will let you know that an enemy is coming towards you like that.
Yeah. No, it's very cool. Very cool, definitely. I think it enhances gameplay for everybody. Even if you decide to turn those settings on, it's more immersive almost, because if you take liberty and imagine like that these sounds are happening within the world that Kratos and Atreus are in, it is more immersive because it's like you as the player are having to use all of your senses to navigate the world like Kratos and Atreus would have to, because it's such a hostile place. Which is a really cool thing to think about. One thing I think I might come back to on the last question. I'll hold that thought and wait for you to say it. I think.
Cool. Yeah, you just made me think of two extra things. So we'll let that
as always. This always happens when we talk. It's great, isn't it? You're like, oh, actually, yes, we can talk about this.
It's just an exponential growth that we need to make sure we don't talk for an hour again, like we did with Elden Ring.
That was good.
So the next thing I've been wondering about is I reflect on my own disability occasionally and think about what I've internalized about what it means, what that means to say that someone's disabled, to say that I'm disabled. What do you think are some misconceptions that get bandied about disability, and in particular disabled gamers?
That they only ever play on easy modes is a big one that a lot of people assume. And that also, there's this common feeling that if you can't play the game, then it's just not for you, and you should play something else, which is a crappy take, really. I think, and also I guess that disabled people don't game. That's probably another big one that some people might feel, because they just don't see it. It's just not something. I mean, there are obviously a lot of disabled gamers who stream on Twitch and things, and that side of things is obviously growing, and which is great to see. But I think from certain sections of the gaming community, it's just the idea of someone disabled gaming is just not something that registers in the same way that they might not register that women can play games too. It's where people get very closed-minded. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. I don't know. But I don't tend to kind of socialize much with gaming communities at large, or like multiplayer games. So I haven't met with any with any sort of misconceptions of myself as a disabled gamer, as it were. But I don't know if you have had any experiences, Matt.
Well, I find that is because apart from pain, that doesn't impact my gaming. So none of my disabilities actually impact my gaming, but the stigma attached to them and the internalization of shame and judgment, that has a tremendous impact on my life. And that's the same for disabled gamers and disabled people at large, I think, because they're told collectively when something isn't accessible, it is an explicit statement of, we don't want you here.
This isn't designed for you.
Yeah, this wasn't built for you. So go away and don't try it. And the misconception that the easy mode example, that everything has to be slowed down and simplified. Everything, if you've got something, a product, then the only way to make it accessible is to dilute it, because that's disabled people just need to be coddled and go, yeah, okay, we'll make these changes, and being treated like children by people who don't understand. And again, the problem with it gets the less accessible a place is, the harder it is to change it, because if the only people who can get into a building are people who can walk up 10 flights of stairs easily, then those people are never going to think, oh, I don't have a single clue what a disabled person might need.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, it's interesting though, when you think about disability in general, it's not a cut and dry thing that some people are and some people aren't. It can happen at any time to anyone.
Yep.
Not to scare people, but it's not anything to be scared of. Oh, Jesus Christ! Sorry, there was some pigeons just flew into the window. I think they're all right, but sorry about that. That was quite loud. But no, it's something that can happen to anyone at any time, and it doesn't have to be physical. It can also be mental. It can be anything that impacts upon your ability to manage things day to day. That's like the European definition of it or something. It could do with some work, but basically anything where you feel like you're limited by something that is part of who you are, essentially. Or at least I'm not explaining myself particularly well. I've gone off on a little weird tangent there, but yeah, it's just interesting because people seem to like not be aware of that, or just not realise that it's a thing, and then when they acquire a disability at some point in their life, they suddenly realise there's this whole new side to life, and people don't focus on it enough, really, in wider society. It's just interesting.
That's such a good point that needs to be made every time. Disabilities aren't a character flaw. They're not a defect that people have just because, or because they deserve it. Everyone acquires. The world becomes less accessible the older you get, because you might be really spry and fit in your 30s, but when you're 70, then everything's going to be a lot harder.
Everything's harder. Yeah,
that's the nature, and you're right. After the age of 30, you lose muscle mass every year.
Do you actually?
Yeah, unless that's why it's so important for people to do weight training, particularly as they age, because their bones become more brittle, and weightlifting keeps the bone strong, keep the muscles strong. So fortunately, I managed to get my 57-year-old mother weightlifting, and now she can deadlift 40 kilograms. She's an absolute beast.
Pretty good.
It's amazing. Yeah. So I recommend
everyone. I'll look into getting some milk bottles or something started with that. Yeah.
It's definitely worth doing. But still, it could be as simple as you break your leg.
Well, yeah, exactly.
A couple of months.
Temporary.
Yeah.
It's temporary, but it still impacts, definitely. Yes.
So it might be that, you break your leg and then maybe it heals badly. And all of a sudden you can't run, you can't walk briskly, stairs are a problem. And just getting it out of the people's head that it's a character flaw. You're disabled because you've done something wrong. There's also the element of capitalism that says that if you can't work a 40-hour work week, then there's something wrong with you. Because that's what capitalism demands.
You're the problem. And there's also, I may have touched on this previously in a separate episode, there's also the slightly unsavoury aspect of religion when you think about disability and how anyone who's disabled needs to be prayed for so they can be healed by God and all that kind of thing, which I don't, obviously. I'm not on board with that at all, and I've had experience of that kind of attitude for much of my life, through either various family or just the community around me. But obviously I'm not religious in any way. I was very much turned against it through my own lived experience of people's attitudes to my disability and how they felt that it's such a shame and that I needed to be prayed for, and that it's very much revolves around charity and pity, which is not something that I think we should be pushing, really. Charity has its place, but only in empowering people to live independently, not to give them money and then they'll be okay. That's all they need.
I have infinite problems with religion. But I need to start an entire new podcast just to. I need to have. I thought of a podcast called Matt's Soapbox, where I'll stand on a box and shout into a camera.
That sounds good.
Things, that's what I'm angry about.
You'd enjoy that.
No, not yet.
Not yet. No.
But there's such an element of surrender to religion, I think. It goes, oh well, God made that decision. Good luck living with it. We'll be thinking about you. And I guarantee that anyone who's ever said, I pray for you about anything, they've never prayed for you.
No.
They've never done that at all. It's just a load of bollocks.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we move on to the fun, happy side of it, of talking about how accessibility options aren't just about diluting and simplifying things and ruining gaming. They're actually a way to enhance the gaming experience.
Very much.
You said something a moment ago, which was just a little taste of it. Do you want to elaborate on that?
I will, yes. I was thinking as I was looking through the list, I use lots of these already and I didn't even think about them as accessibility features. I just liked having them as things I could do in the game. So, they don't have to be loud and proud, I'm an accessibility feature, but it's cool to know that they are. But I think in previous gaming times, I've used a lot of things and I don't even, it doesn't occur to me that they're a designed accessibility feature that's had to be put in to make the game better. I just think, oh, that's cool, that's going to be good. I'll use that. So subtitles, for example, I very often play games with subtitles on because my TV's not far away, but it's far enough away that, well, I just like to know what people are saying. Sometimes they sound a bit muffly in game cutscenes and things, or they'll say place names and I want to know how they're spelt and stuff. But having the ability to obviously change the size of subtitles, change the color of subtitles, have them have like a background so that they're more easily readable would be helpful, because I now have to wear glasses constantly while gaming because I can't read without the glasses on. Again, that's another thing. So having larger subtitles will definitely help. I think sound prompts are a thing that have been happening in games that I've been enjoying, but I haven't necessarily realised are an accessibility feature. I thought really they were probably more of a game design feature than an accessibility feature, but I really enjoy that aspect, especially as a person who enjoys collecting things in games. Having sound prompts for things like treasures and whatever are going to make me very happy, because it makes me, it guarantees, or at least helps me know that I'm going to have an easier time finding all of the collectibles, which is a fun thing for me. There's probably an awful lot of other accessibility features that I make use of without realising, but that's the cool thing about it, is that even if you don't class yourself as disabled, you're probably using a lot of these features already.
Yeah, just like it's things that you take for granted, that like subtitles.
Yeah.
Everyone uses subtitles for things,
Hmm.
and they don't think of it as that it's saying anything about them. I think it's like so many of these things they think, oh well, I won't use that because it's I would demean myself by making
it's not
things.
something for me, it's for someone who's more limited than I am. That's what they'd be thinking.
There you go. You can still play it exactly the way that you want to play it, except other people can change it. And if you go, oh, actually, my eyes are straining a bit, I can change the size of the subtitles as well. I won't tell anyone.
Yeah. There was a lot of things I'm just remembering now when I was playing through the most modern Tomb Raider series. The very last one, they had options to kind of up the difficulty for each different aspect of the game. So they had combat, exploration, and something else I can't remember. Probably puzzles. And the difficulty was either easier or harder. For example, puzzles, you could have Lara prompt you about like how to solve the puzzle, and that would be an easy mode. And then the hard mode would be that she wouldn't say anything at all. And I preferred the hard mode because I like to be able to work out the puzzles by myself. But then also I found occasionally I would have to change the setting because I just needed a little prompt every now and then. But the ability to be able to change the difficulty of settings or the levels of settings is something that's really cool as well. Having that flexibility, I think accessibility is also about flexibility and being open to having a player want to change the way that they play if they're struggling with it, or if they just want to change how they're playing, they can do that, and that's great. So I think that's a really good part of making games more accessible, is just giving players the option to do what they want when they want to do it.
Yeah, you're so right about flexibility, because I think part of people likes knowing, like, they go, I can just deal with things as they are. I don't need any.
Yeah, I often feel like that at the start of a game, and then I have to check myself and be like, it's okay to change my mind. I don't have to be so down on myself for not finishing a game on like normal difficulty and having to switch to easy, or trying to play on hard and then having to switch down or whatever else. It's okay to do that. No one's going to judge you for it, and I feel like I shouldn't judge myself for it, but sometimes it's hard to get yourself out of that mindset because it's what's drummed into you. Like you're saying, that people very often feel like they have to stick to what they start with because they don't need to make it easier. Why would they want to make it easier? It's that kind of attitude. It's sometimes hard to move away from that.
Yeah, you're right. It's what's drummed into us, and that's partially why there's so much shame connected to disabilities. Because in a capitalist society, they say, "Well, you're less able to input
Yeah.
And so you need to.
You're just not trying hard enough.
Mm,
That's what capitalism tells you.
yeah.
You're just not trying hard enough. You should try harder. Sorry, I got on a bit of a downer there. But
Eat the rich.
yeah, it's like when people get angry at when games are like, "You're having trouble with this bit. Would you like to skip it?" Actually, that's a really positive thing.
Mm.
I used to hate it when it came out because I thought, "Oh, the game's mocking me. It thinks I'm crap." But actually, it's just trying to help you be less stressed when you play through and less angry and be like, I can't do that bit, but it's okay. I can move on to the next bit and carry on. So, yeah.
One thing you said a few minutes ago that made me instantly go, ping, of course, that's such a good idea. Thinking of, the immersion aspect. All these things mean that you can tailor it to make it more immersive. And you could think of it in terms of this is happening because of it's the in-game. Maybe Atreus has this excellent sight that makes things stand out more. Kratos is incredibly well-attuned hearing. And that maybe there's been a spell cast on them, which means that they can only see in these high contrast colours.
It's about using your imagination a bit more. That's another aspect of accessibility, is being open and imaginative about what's actually possible. Why couldn't that be possible? You know, if you think about something and say, well, it's never been done before, we can't do that. Why would we want to do that? Well, actually, if you imagine a bit harder, there's always a solution there to get round any barriers to accessibility, I think.
Yeah. And your collective imagination is so limited by your diversity.
Yeah.
And conversely, it grows exponentially with the more diverse people you have around you.
Yeah.
I've run out of questions.
That's all right, man.
Is there anything else that we haven't mentioned?
No, just that I'm very excited for God of War 2, and lots of people on Twitter were also speculating that this means it would be announced soon because of the history of announcements around accessibility in games and the follow-on being not so very long before it's properly announced. So rumours are swirling. So we'll have to wait and see. But I don't mind. I'll be patient. I'll wait for them all good. But still very excited.
Did you see the video Corey Barlog released recently?
No. I shall look it up.
It was basically just him standing in front of Kratos saying, "Look, we're working extremely hard, and we really appreciate your patience." So I think that means that it's going to be quite a while.
That's a little clue there, isn't it? You know, yeah. At least they're like keeping us in the loop, which is good. You know, it's not like they're not doing anything. I know they're working hard on it. So, and these things take time.
Yeah, and hopefully I think they take really good care of their workers. They're not making. There's excellent news that some game testers at Activision Blizzard and Raven Software, they've unionized now because they were being treated horrifyingly. And Rockstar, who bragged that when they were making Red Dead Redemption 2, that there were staff working 100 hours a week. That's just disgusting.
Yeah, it is.
Hopefully, games that are leading the way in terms of all across the board, like Insomniac and Sony Santa Monica, hopefully that will force at least some of the standards to change in the industry.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. But hopefully we'll be back whenever something new comes up with God of War Ragnarok.
Yes.
I have no doubt that we will be releasing something imminently in relation with it. Thank you for watching or listening. This is Game the System, the Feminist Gaming Podcast. You can like, share, and subscribe if you're watching us. And if you're listening, we'd really appreciate it if you could give us 5 stars and a little cheeky comment wherever you happen to be listening, and get us more into as many eyes and ears of feminist gamers as possible. We will see you every Thursday at 7 p.m. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Gaming the System. If you want to support us, you can donate to us through our PayPal by sending it to wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com if you want to send us a one-off donation. If you want to donate to us monthly, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. Until next time, bye-bye.